Hi guys, welcome back. It is a cold one tonight, Wednesday night here in North Yorkshire. It is like 0 outside at the moment, maybe sort of getting towards -1 or 2, but it is cold, really cold. Diesel heaters going on like billy in there at the moment, just trying to get the place warmed up. But I'm just now trying to get this top end back on this GPX. You know what it's like. You go away for a few days and it has a knock-on effect and nothing gets done at all. So I'm now just catching up on jobs I've been wanting to do for a while. So, this has been sat here just over a week now, waiting for me to get on with it. And finally we found the time now. The wife's out for the evening at a show. And yeah, I've got a bit of me time just to put the top end on this. And then we'll look at what else we're going to be doing with this bike, prior to riding it in April. So let's go look at all the bits we've got together. Okay, what have we got? Right, left to right, radiators and rad braces underneath. Got some bolts, clips, springs, radiator hoses, engine stays, cylinder which is nice and clean, spark plug. New copper washers on the cylinder head bolts, power valve covers. Got a tiny little clip for his power valve rod. New O-rings, head O-rings, gaskets, cylinder head there, new piston as well. That's the old piston. Put that to one side. So we've got everything now together. The base gasket is on the engine. So this is the job for tonight. Just get the top end on and we'll just see where we are in terms of time. It's now 8 o'clock at night. So I'm going to give it an hour, maybe 2 hours, and call it a day. So we'll see how we get on. Okay guys, we're back. I've changed. That was Wednesday night. Everything went pretty smoothly really. Top end back on, coolant in. I just had a bit of a check over everything, that makes sure everything's nice and neat. Wiring's nice and neat for the fan and the coolant temperature sensor, which is on the bottom of the radiator. We used OEM equipment, piston, gaskets, head O-rings, all GPX Moto stuff. Thanks to James Brown at GPX Moto for sending those bits through to me pretty quickly. The cost of the top end refresh was £130, which is like, it's nothing compared to some of the other stuff what's out there when you're doing a top end rebuild. The TPI 2019 bike I had, the KTM, they recommend a top end refresh at 80 hours. So you're looking at a piston kit and an oil pump. So you'll be looking at around £300, £100 for your oil pump, and I think it's £185, £190 for a piston kit. Could actually be more now. So the £300 mark, where this is significantly cheaper. So it's worth doing your top end refreshes on the GPXs sooner rather than later, so you can keep an eye on engine wear. You can see what's going on with it. And now I've done it at this sort of period in time where it's got 48.5 hours on. I'll run it all season and see where we are. But I would envisage me doing at least 60 hours on this bike this year, at least. Bearing in mind I'm splitting my riding between 3 bikes, so I'm riding the TSE 250 up until late spring as well, and we've got the KTM 450 as well, which I'll be running throughout the summer season, doing some trail rides and some adventure type riding with that as well. So you can only put a certain amount of hours on each bike. So I would expect 60 hours on this bike come next winter. Now, and it's worth then doing another top end refresh for what it costs. Talking to my friend Mark Hooson last year when we did the review of this bike, he was on a gas which had 300 hours on it, and I asked him how many pistons he'd put in it, and he said 6 pistons. So Mark is doing his pistons every 50 hours on his TPI. So when you look at the cost of that, is into just a piston change alone is into £1,200, and never mind how many oil pumps he's put on it. So it's just something to think about, and especially at this moment in time when we've got an economic crisis and people are counting the pennies and wanting to get more out of the bikes. We see more people repairing the bikes and running the bikes longer as opposed to selling them and getting new bikes, trying to keep the cost down. For a lot of people, there's a lot of guys out there like me, weekend warriors, don't have any massive expectations in terms of where they want to come as a, winning races or anything, but they just want to enjoy the bikes. The cost of running these bikes is important, and it's important to save money where you can, but keep the bike to a good standard. And I think this bike, gives a lot of value for money. So what we need to do now is, before I finish, before we move on, the coolant. We've got the coolant in. You might see the coolant expansion tank here. I've located it there. It's been there a while actually, because originally it was on the back of the radiator. Now I moved it from the back of the radiator because if there was an impact, I didn't want it getting pushed into the radiator and possibly causing some damage. So it's there, it's tucked out of the way, it's been there for quite a while, it's not caused any problems. I think it's a good place to locate it, and particularly if you are thinking of putting a bigger tank on these, you can get a 3-gallon service tank to fit the GPX TSE 300. You would also need to consider relocating that anyway. I was contacted by a guy in Mexico who's actually got a bigger tank on his GPX 300, and he's relocated the coolant expansion tank onto the front of the radiator on one side, which to me, I would rather have it out of the way and not in a position where it could get knocked or damaged. So I think that is a good location there. It's just cable tied on with 3 cable ties around the centre of the frame and at the base, at the bottom of the cylinder head coolant hose. It looks nice and neat there. So what we need to do now is get the exhaust on and fuel tank, a bit of fuel in, and let's get her running. So there we go. Happy the bike's up and running now. Still a couple of little jobs to do. One is in relation to the the electric start system. I'm going to clean that out, clean the bendix out inside the ignition case, put some more oil in there, and I'll show you the breather setup I've got on that. And then also just to grease up the swinging arm bearings and the headstock and change the fluids. And I think we're then set up for the season. And then come the time when we need to do a service for Serbia, it's going to be just the basics: chain sprockets, brake pads, fluid changes. I'll probably put a clutch pack in as well, just as a precaution, if anything, and keep the existing clutch pack. But it's going to be fairly straightforward. No big jobs, no piston jobs or anything like that. Then it's going to be run all the way through the season. And I think by that time as well, we will have a suspension service and all, which will be fairly straightforward. Forks and seals, oil, rear shock service as well. So good to go. So the next video, we'll be looking at the ignition starter system and just putting some oil in there and just getting the bike back to a position where we can get it tested, get it run, and do a few heat cycles. See you soon, guys.